Today we are talking about halt before eating. So, we're going to be talking about the link between our emotions, stress, and those eating habits. For those of you who have not attended one of my webinars previously, my name is Megan Wollerton and I own Life Force Wellness. And I'm certified in a bunch of different things: personal training, nutrition coaching, positive psychology, health coaching, but I haven't always been in health and wellness. I actually started my career in the oil and gas field industry in Pennsylvania, where I experienced burnout. I was told drill rigs run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if I wanted to be successful in my career, I needed to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's not reasonable. That's not realistic. Though I tried my best, all it did was lead to my inevitable burnout. And so when I left that industry, that's what really got me into health and wellness. And so now I work with individuals, who just want to improve their overall well-being, who are fighting against that burnout and that grind mentality. I'm working with leaders to change work environments so that we're no longer promoting kind of that toxic, grinded out, burnout environment that we have in so many different industries. But today we're going to talk about individuals and what you guys might be experiencing individually when it comes around your eating habits. And I'm curious, have you ever opened up the pantry without even thinking about it? Or gone to the refrigerator and just stood there and stared, and you're like, I don't even know if I'm hungry. I don't know why I'm here. It's like your body just took over and you like ended up in the kitchen. Maybe you finished an entire bag of chips or crackers or cookies while you were watching TV or working. And then you look down, you're like, oh, the bag's empty. Maybe you've snacked just out of pure boredom, or you've reached for a dessert or a glass of wine or maybe a glass of whiskey after a stressful day. If you have said yes to any of those, you are not alone. We frequently use food as a comfort mechanism, that when we have a tough day, when we're just looking for something to do, we use food as a filler. And we need to first understand there's a big difference between hunger and cravings. There's a physical hunger where our body actually needs food. And when we are physically hungry, it happens gradually. It's not sudden. This is over time. And this is when you're at that end of the day and you're like, I am truly hungry. Feed me. I will eat anything you put in front of me. Just put a plate of food in front of me. I don't care what it is. I will eat it. I am genuinely physically hungry, and it builds over time. Then there's the emotional hunger, and that's really where we get into the cravings. It tends to be sudden, and something might trigger it, like you drive past your favorite restaurant and you catch a whiff of what they're cooking, and it's usually around something specific. It's I want chocolate, I want a slice of pizza, I want ice cream, I want this. It's something you want specifically that you are craving. Not other food will do. You need a taco, like stat. And these are usually driven by stress, and then they're usually followed by guilt. And this is where we get into this stress eating cycle, right? We have a stressful day, emotions run high, our brain is looking for something to make us feel good. So we start to get these cravings for sugar, because sugar, especially, is known to give us a hit of dopamine, which is that feel good chemical in our brain. It provides us some sort of temporary relief. And once we get that kind of post craving clarity, then we start to let the guilt sink in, right? I shouldn't have eaten that. Oh, I was on a diet. I promised myself I wouldn't stop there. I wouldn't spend money on food this week. And then we just leads into more stress. The guilt just feeds more stress, and then the cycle continues. And we've all kind of experienced this, where maybe we tell ourselves, I'm going to save money this week by not going out to eat. I'm going to cook at home. And then you just have a really rough day and you're like, screw it. I'm hitting the drive through on the way home. Or I really want to lose these last couple pounds before my summer vacation. And so I'm going to eat really clean for 2 weeks. And again, stress pops up, a project pops up at work, something's going on with your kids, and you're in the pantry snacking on all the things you told yourself you weren't going to. And there's a little bit of a neuroscience behind all of this. So when we are stressed out, we actually get hit with cortisol. Usually it's cortisol and adrenaline that flood our system. And these are hormones that are released when we are in heavy stress. And those actually cause us to want to get energy because when cortisol and adrenaline hits our body, our muscles tighten, our heart beats faster. We're kind of entering that fight or flight mode. And to keep those muscles tense and the blood pumping and the oxygen uptake going, our body is burning more calories. And so it actually sends signals that we should eat and we need energy and we need it quick. And that's why when we are stressed out, we tend to go for the simple carbs, the things that we can eat that will break down in our digestive system very quickly and then be used as energy. However, if we never fight or flight anything, we're not exercising, we're not really getting up and moving, we're not burning that energy off. And so it ends up sitting there. And it's usually things like the sugary cupcakes and chocolates and things that we reach for because one, they have that give us that hit of dopamine, and two, they do break down easily. But if we don't use those things, they get stored as fat in the body. And so then we start to see the extra pounds come on. The other thing is that when we are under heavy stress and we're kind of in that fight or flight mode, our prefrontal cortex starts to shut down. That's the part of our brain that really helps us to make good decisions. It helps us to do complex problem solving. And there might be two things going on at the end of your day. One, a lot of stress, prefrontal cortex shuts down. You just don't make good decisions. And so you make that decision to hit the drive through versus going home and having something prepared. The other thing is throughout the day, you might have decision fatigue. And this is a very real thing. You might start the day, I'm going to go strong. I'm going to make good, healthy choices throughout the day. And then you get home. And what's the thing most couples fight over at night? What's for dinner, right? I don't care. Make a decision. I'm sick of making decisions. I've made 100,000 decisions today at work or with the kids. And I just want to turn my brain off. Your brain is just like, shut me down. I'm done. And so it's really hard for us to make those good quality choices at the end of the day. That's why doing things like meal prepping in advance is huge. And it seems so simple, and so many people don't do it. But what you don't realize is by not planning ahead, by not having something healthy ready to go, something quick and easy at home that doesn't take a lot of effort ready, that actually keeps you on track for your healthy eating habits. So it seems overly simple, but there's neuroscience behind why it works because we know you're going to hit decision fatigue. And this is why it's harder to maintain a lot of these healthy habits, especially when they are tied to our stress triggers. We know eating that food brings us comfort. And so we want to just feel comforted in that moment. And it's something that's quick and it's easy. And that's what we go to. And so we use food a lot of times as a coping mechanism for other emotions and stress, which we'll get into. The other part of this, when we are under high stress, whether it's emotional, physical, it messes with our sleep. That cortisol and adrenaline that keeps us alert, keeps us in fight or flight mode, may make it difficult for you to fall asleep at night, or you have a very restless sleep. You're waking up in the middle of the night. And when you don't get good quality sleep, it actually causes two hormones to go completely out of whack. The first one is leptin. This is the hormone that controls our body and telling us that we are full. So if you've ever sat down at the table and you've gone, okay, I've eaten enough, I feel full, I feel stuffed. A lot of times we tend to overeat because it takes time for our digestive system to tell our brain we're full, which is why when you sit down to eat, you should only eat to 80% full, not 100%, because 20 minutes later, that's when you're going to get that, oh, I totally overate and I feel disgusting. Only eat to 80% full. But that is all controlled by this hormone leptin. And when we don't sleep well, it lowers our leptin levels. And so we don't tend to feel full. And that's why on days that you're really tired, you just feel like you can eat everything in sight and not feel satisfied. And that's because that leptin hormone is not where it should be. The other hormone I always remember because it's called ghrelin and it reminds me of gremlin. And it makes me think of that little gremlin in your belly that tells you that you are hungry. And that's exactly what ghrelin does. The higher the ghrelin levels are when we have poor sleep, they tend to get elevated the more hungry we feel. And so this is a really troubling combination, right? We don't get good quality sleep, and it's like we feel hungry all the time. That little gremlin is going off, and our leptin isn't there to put on the safety valve to say, stop, you're full, stop eating. And so these two are working against you, which is why I tell a lot of my clients, I understand the desire to want to eat healthier, to maybe lose weight, get into shape, build muscle. But if you're really struggling with your eating habits and just staying on track to some kind of plan, or just staying out of the pantry or staying away from the sweets, start with your sleep. Your sleep is what's going to help you regulate all of these hormones so that you can stay on track for healthy eating, eating. It's not a willpower issue. Your issue is that you don't have enough willpower, or that you're not motivated enough. Oh, that's where a lot of coaches want to go. Like, you just need to push harder. You need to be more determined. No, you need to also make sure that you're looking at how you're sleeping, you're looking at your stress relieving habits, because a lot of those things are what's causing your eating habits. I tell my clients it is so much easier to start an exercise program than it is a diet program. Because when you develop an exercise program, there's a lot of planning that has to go in, right? You have to make sure you have the proper gym attire and shoes. You got to pack your gym bag maybe before you go to work. Maybe you got to get a gym membership. You sign up for a group class. You get a walking buddy. And usually, more people are willing to come alongside you for an exercise program. It's pretty easy to find a friend to go, hey, let's take a walk together. Let's go play pickleball together. Let's go to the pool together. That it can be a social thing. Whereas eating habits, a lot of time I talk to my clients, and the people they live with or they're around don't really support a healthy eating. I hear from a lot of parents that, they snack on their kids, junk food at night. The kids go off to bed, and then they're staying up late and they're snacking on their kids' cookies and their kids' yogurt bites and those kinds of things. And it's like they'd love to do a kitchen clean out and get these things out of their home, but they're not buying them for them. They're buying them for the kids, and they're not going to support your snacking. So you have to do something else. You have to like be more intentional, but we don't tend to plan. We don't tend to get behind the meal plans like we do the exercise plans. We just think, oh, I'll just make better decisions. I'll figure it out tomorrow. I'll figure out dinner later. And that's where things tend to go awry. The other things is with eating, because we tend to do it kind of mindlessly. We sit there, we'll eat a whole bag of chips without realizing it, or we wander into the kitchen without realizing it. We have to be a lot more intentional about identifying our triggers. What's causing us to get up and go to the kitchen and reach for the food? And when I was getting my nutrition coaching certification, they taught us that there were four primary reasons that we tend to eat, and they broke it down into an acronym known as HALT. And that stood for hungry, angry or anxious, lonely or depressed, and then tired or bored. So hungry, anxious, lonely, and tired. And we're going to dive into each of those. First and foremost, you might just be legitimately hungry, right? Like, I haven't eaten all day. I've had a really busy day. I was super active. I burned a lot of calories. Eat when you're legitimately hungry. Some people, they might be thirsty. Our body tends to give the same cues for thirst as it does for hunger. That's why a lot of coaches tell you to drink a glass of water before you actually go eat. Make sure it's not a thirst cue, make sure it's a hunger cue. Here's the other side that you might not hear from a lot of people. It's okay to feel hungry. In fact, you should feel hungry. If you're sitting there and you're going, I don't know the last time I actually had like my stomach growl and actually felt like a hunger pain, that's a problem. Some people have a, real emotional and psychological issue with feeling hungry. Maybe there's trauma in the past, maybe there was food scarcity, but it's okay to feel hungry. In fact, you should. I encourage my clients, like, don't eat until you feel hungry. I know I have clients I've worked with, and they're like, well, I eat breakfast every morning, even though I don't wake up hungry. And I go, that's a red flag. You should wake up a little hungry. If you're not waking up hungry, that means you ate way too late last night, or you ate way too big of a meal at the end of your day. You should wake up and feel like I would at least like a piece of toast or something to get me moving. You should be a little hungry when you wake up. And it's okay to not eat until you feel hungry. You should really be listening to your body and taking cues from your body, and not, social cues. Because I know people, they'll go, well, I ate lunch because all my coworkers were going to lunch, or it was just lunchtime. We always eat lunch at this time. We always eat dinner at this time. And they're getting their hunger cues from things outside their actual physiological needs. So I would encourage you to, if you wanted to really focus in on your nutrition, pay attention to your body and think about, like, am I really hungry right now? And if not, skip the meal. Wait until you're actually hungry to go and eat. The next one is when we're angry or when we're anxious. And this is just like, I need to fidget, I need to move my body. I'm looking to fill this void right now. A lot of times I know I have found myself after a frustrating day that I'm in the kitchen and I'm snacking on chips while I'm like venting my anger and frustrations to my husband. And he usually has to like take the chip bag away from me and like remind me this is not a coping mechanism. And so we'll go for a walk. I was a former competitive boxer. I like to hit the heavy bags. You want to get out some good anger and frustration? A good session at the gym hitting some heavy bags is a way to do it. You can also journal on it or document it. If it's something that's very serious going on, it's not a bad idea to put pen to paper and document what's going on. Call a friend or a family member. Use a vent session, get that out of there. A lot of times we just need to feel heard. We want to make sure we're being seen. We want to make sure we can just get that out. And also, I would encourage you, have that friend or that person that understands there's a time I went to vent just to get it off my chest. I'm not venting for solutions. Sometimes you vent to that person and they immediately want to jump in and try to fix it. We're very clear in this house. When I start a vent session, my husband asks, are we venting for solutions or are we venting just to get the emotion out? And I said, just to get the emotion out, just nod your head and be like, I can't believe that happened to you. And I will move on and be okay. But have that vent session. Don't use food to fill the void. Lonely or depressed, we've all seen the rom-com, right? Girl goes through a breakup, she goes back to her apartment, she grabs a big thing of Ben and Jerry's ice cream and she starts downing it, right? There's a little bit of truth to that. Again, sugar gives us a hit of dopamine, which is that feel good chemical in our brain. So when we're feeling really down, we tend to go for sugary foods to help lift up our emotions. And so, again, it's trying to fill that void. There was one research study that was done that found that if you take time to just sit and meditate on a time in your life when you were really happy or experienced joy, we joke about going to your happy place, but they actually did a study on it. Close your eyes and reminisce on happier times. Think about a time you were with your family or at the beach or on your vacation, or something positive happened in your life. Take a few minutes and meditate on that. Taking 10 to 15 minutes to reminisce on happier time also releases dopamine in the brain and can help it lift you up, and then it can curb those cravings for sugar. Other things you can do: call a friend or a family member, go somewhere out in public, go to a park where there's other people, make small talk, pick up a hobby or join a group. I know for me, I joined a Bible study group for women. So it's nice that I have a group of women I sit around a table with, and we have community together. We talk together, we share things with each other. We have a thread that I can reach out to them. So anytime I'm feeling lonely or depressed, I have that community now around me. Other things like painting or journaling, whatever it is to help you get out that emotion and process it without using food. And the last one, you're tired. You might be feeling hungry because your body's just looking for more fuel. Food is our energy source, especially carbohydrates. So if you've gone on a low carbohydrate diet, you might find that you're a little more fatigued and sluggish. And that's because your body has to get used to burning fat before the carbs for that energy. So if it's the midday, you're at 3 p.m. and you're hitting that midday crash, if you have the ability to step away for 15 and 20 minutes and take a power nap, I would do that. A 15-minute or 20-minute power nap can really help curve those cravings and give you that boost of energy. Never nap longer than 20 minutes because then you get into deep sleep and then you wake up worse than what you went to sleep as. Or if it's late night, this is a lot of people I talk to. It's like 10 o'clock at night and they start to get those cravings for something sweet or something crunchy. And I go, that's your body just looking for energy because it's ready to rally for the rest of the night. Go to bed. It is okay to go to bed a little bit hungry. You're not gonna wake up starved to death. You'll be fine. Get out of the pantry. Do not eat right before bed. Don't refuel that close to bedtime. Avoid the late night snacking and just let yourself get into good quality deep sleep. Other hidden triggers that are not part of that HALT equation. While that HALT equation is nice, there are some other things that happen in our lives, right? Like vacations. We're on a road trip, so we're eating fast food. Maybe it's summertime parties. This is the time of year. There's weddings and graduations and, block parties, and it's, barbecues and hot dogs and chips, and it's all over the place. We're traveling, holidays really throw a monkey wrench. Like we're coming up here on the 4th of July holiday, and it's a lot of cookouts. Sometimes it's a habit. I recognize that I had this really nasty habit that after I'd put the kids to bed and my husband and I would sit down to have like quiet time to ourselves to watch TV or a movie, I'd always grab like a piece of chocolate. And I started to develop the habit that when I'd sit on the couch, I'd immediately start to crave chocolate. And it was just this trigger that I had done it so many times that I had developed a habit loop that, whoa, when I sit here on the couch, it's time to eat chocolate. And I had to identify that trigger and then try to break it. And so I switched it out for something else. Advertising gets us in our environment. You ever drive down the road and then something just hits your senses and then your mouth starts to water? Those kinds of things can also trigger hunger cues. So, what do we do with these other triggers? If you know you have something coming up, like a vacation or you have a wedding. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we have this lovely thing at weddings called a cookie table, and they pull out great grandma's cookie recipes, and you can't pass them up. It's just too good. But what can I do? What can I do to plan ahead to prepare for the fact that I know I want to attack the cookie table? So, what events do I have coming up? Let's say I have a wedding. What can I pack or take with me? A lot of times, if I'm going to an event like that and I know there will be a lot of food that's very tempting, I will actually take a protein shake with me and drink it on the way. And that gives me a nice full base so that even if I want the cookies, rather than eating like 10 cookies in one sitting, it limits me to maybe only like 4 cookies because I'm already kind of full from my protein shake. So, what can you pack with you? Even when I travel for work and I'm going around and I'm speaking, I usually have a little section in my backpack, my carry on, that has dry snacks, whether it's chopsticks for protein or it's like my organic crackers or it's a protein bar, or it's packs of, my protein powder that I can mix up in the hotel rooms. What are some of those things that you can pack and take with you that keep you from like hitting the continental breakfast or the fast food places along the way? If you're going out and you're meeting someone at an unfamiliar restaurant, most restaurants now post their menu online. Look up the menu in advance and plan what you're going to order before you get there because it can be really dangerous, kind of like grocery shopping on an empty stomach and then we buy up half the store. You don't want to walk into a new restaurant and go, oh my gosh, everything smells so good, and you order a little bit of everything. Go in with a plan, look at the menu in advance, and pick out what you're going to order. And then even plan out the order you're going to eat your food. You should always drink water before you eat. It helps to lubricate the system. Plus, it gives you a nice base so you don't eat over what you should. It helps you to feel fuller a little bit faster. And you should always start veggies on the plate first, then proteins, then carbs. So you can do some things to plan ahead. You can look at, okay, I've got this event, I have this travel, I have this holiday. What can I pack or take with me? Even if it's at a barbecue or something or a cookout that you're going to, is there a healthy side dish or something you can take that I can snack on this guilt free? The other thing is pause. When you find yourself in those situations where you're reaching for food, just take a pause and just check in with yourself. What am I feeling right now? Am I grabbing this because I'm anxious? Is it because I'm bored? Is it because I'm actually hungry? Uh, what do I actually need in this moment? Do I need to talk to somebody? Do I need to take a walk? Do I need to get something off my chest? Do I need to take a nap? And then ask yourself, will food actually solve this problem? If it's that you're hungry or you're thirsty, it may solve that problem. But if it's just because you're anxious or bored, it's not going to solve that problem. You're still going to be anxious after you eat. You're still going to be bored after you eat because what's next? So, really asking yourself those questions. What am I feeling? What do I actually need? Will food solve this problem? A lot of times when we go to food for comfort, we're trying to solve a problem. And so we shouldn't feel guilty around it. And we shouldn't feel guilty whenever we, make those little mistakes. We should look at our food eating habits as a continuum. And we want to practice on doing just a little bit better. Look over what you ate today and just ask yourself, what was the best thing I ate? What was the healthiest thing I did for myself today? What was the worst thing I ate? And what was pretty good? And then how can I make that a little bit better? Even when you sit down, look at your plate. What's the healthiest thing on my plate? What's the least healthiest thing I'm eating? If I were to make this meal again tomorrow, how could I make it just 1 or 2% healthier? Could I switch out my soda for iced tea or my iced tea for water? Could I switch out French fries for, a baked potato instead? What are those little changes that you can make that just makes it slightly healthier and over time build out those habits? Where I see a lot of people struggle is they think they need to have the perfect diet, right? I'm going to follow this 90-day plan. And they do really good days 1 through 4. And then Friday comes and somebody invites them out and they get an appetizer or something that wasn't part of their meal plan. And it's forget it. The whole thing's ruined. Oh, I ate that one Hershey Kiss at lunchtime. The whole diet's ruined. Might as well order pizza for dinner because I already messed it up. And it's this whole idea that it has to be perfect. Focus on the progress, not perfection. Also, do not restrict yourself. I am not a coach that if you work with me on your nutrition, that I'm going to come to you and say, you can't have chocolate cake. Because if I say right now, don't think of a white elephant, you all just thought of a white elephant. You can't not do something. When as soon as you tell yourself, I'm not allowed to eat this, I'm not allowed to eat that, I can't have this, that is all your brain will think about and start to crave. And it just makes the whole dieting process so much more like grueling. So I focus on awareness. Why am I craving this? Why am I eating this right now? Find those triggers, figure out what can actually solve your problem in the moment. Keep consistent. I know there's a lot of really intense things out there. I know like there's a hard 75 challenge going around out there right now, and some people are doing it, and like God bless them. It's called hard 75 for a reason. It is hard. It is really restrictive. But do you want that? Because when you are really restricted, when you are in that intensity, it's building the stress. So if your problem is that you're eating these things because you already have a heavy stress load, doing a really intense restrictive diet is only going to compound that stress and make you feel more guilty and just spiral you into a place that's not healthy to be. So just focus on consistency, adding one small little thing, drinking more water, getting more vegetables, and just keeping that consistent and build on the habits over time. The other thing is get out of the mentality that you need to punish your body. Okay. You do not have to do 20 burpees because you ate a cupcake or whatever. You do not need to go run 10 miles. And I know there's a lot of apps out there, mine included, which I'm not thrilled that they have. But when you add a food, it will tell you like how many miles you have to run to work it off, or how many laps you have to swim, or how many burpees you have to do. You should never be treating your diet or your exercise as punishment for making the not healthiest choice in the world. You should be looking at it as nourishment. How do I want to nourish my body? It's not the I ordered the salad over the fries because I'm not allowed fries, because I'm this, I'm that, I'm overweight, I'm not happy with my body. It's I'm choosing this salad because I want to treat my body well. I want to give it what it needs. This has more vitamins and minerals, and I want to nourish my body and treat it well. We need to get out of the mentality of punishing ourselves or thinking we have to choose something else because we're not good enough for whatever food or whatever workout plan. So think about nourishment over punishment. So, some of the key takeaways I want you to have today. First off, that halt, create that awareness. Stress influences our eating, and we need to recognize that a lot of times when you're in the pantry, it's for stress and emotional reasons. It's, emotional cravings. And so I want you to pause before reacting and ask yourself those 3 questions. What am I really feeling right now? What do I need to solve this problem? And will food solve this problem? And then build healthier coping strategies. Join a club, join a community, go for a walk, call a friend. Food shouldn't carry your emotions. Food should not make you feel happy or sad. Food is just fuel. It's nourishment for your body. We want to try to disconnect it from our emotions. If you want to go deeper with any of this, you are absolutely welcome to book a call with me. So I did have a couple people reach out to me prior to this presentation, and they said they weren't going to be real comfortable coming off mute and asking me some questions. So, as promised, here's the QR code. You can scan that and book a quick 15-minute call with me, and I'm happy to answer your any questions you have privately. If you have any questions you want to throw in the chat or you want to unmute, I will be taking those in a second. If you enjoyed this webinar, I offer weekly webinars. They switch from wellness to leadership topics. So our next wellness webinar will be July 14th, and that's Recharge and Rise. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into sleeping habits, and to really build up our energy and some things around fatigue and burnout. So this is a really good tie with what we just talked about with using food for fuel. What are some of those other things that we can do to help, really recharge our body? So at this time, I will open up for questions. If you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, I strongly encourage that you do, just so that you can get all the latest info on the things that we're offering, webinars, that kind of stuff. Um, so somebody here put they tried to do the hard 75. They're stressed due to other life issues. I know, preach, me too. Your hunger has increased so much that they've ordered pizza, pasta, chocolate cake about 2 to 4 times a week. I also have stress with a lot of other cravings like coffee, tea, lattes. Having, I'm trying to be kinder to yourself. And this is, I want you to know you are not alone. I talk to so many people. I still have a lot of personal training clients that I coach through their nutrition. And it's like, oh, I'm trying not to eat this. And then it's like 2 weeks later, they're like, I ate entire pizza by myself. And it's like, had you just allowed yourself one slice or two slices when you were craving it, you wouldn't have binged an entire pizza by yourself 2 weeks later, because you were trying to fight that craving, and you were craving it because you were stressed, and the stress was compounding. And it just leads to this really awful cycle, which is why I'm always telling people, don't restrict yourself and don't feel guilty. Even on some of my more strict diet plans I've run with my clients, they've still been allowed 2 cheat meals a week where they can just go and eat whatever they want twice a week, so that when they have that wedding to go to, that's your cheat day. It's fine. Don't feel guilty about it. I'm not saying go overindulge and eat an entire pizza by yourself, but like that's your day to eat without having to count the calories or feel guilty about it. You should absolutely have those worked into whatever plan you are doing. So, doing a hard, really restrictive thing like the Atkins or keto or paleo or like this hard 75, yeah, it's tough. I know a few people that have managed it, but it is very few people that I know that have heard about it, tried it, and successfully done it. And I'm also curious to see how it plays out after some time, because that stress has compounded, and I'm curious to see where they'll be in 3 months. Um, yeah, here's another one. So thank you guys for sharing, because I want you guys to see you're not alone in this. You're full time in university plus taking care of, your kids and stuff. Yeah, we're stressed. And the last thing we need to do is then be stressed about meals, be stressed about, I ate a pizza today. We just need to be kinder to ourselves and to our bodies. Um, Meal plan snacks in between to regulate your blood sugar. Yes. I know it seems overly simple, but meal planning really works. I mean, if you could just sit down, pick one day of the week, sit down and go, okay, what are we having? Even if it's just dinner, what are we having for dinner every night? And you can prep it and like put it into Ziploc containers where it's just like pull it out, like the chicken's already thawed, pull it out, put it in the skillet and have it be done. Taking just 2 hours on the weekend to plan the Monday through Friday meals or whatever can make a huge difference. And it seems like an overly simple thing, but a lot of people don't do it. But those who do it feel a lot better, tend to be healthier. Same thing with exercise. Those that plan ahead, sign up for the classes, have a workout buddy, they tend to be more successful. Yeah. And then prioritizing your sleep. Like I said, you want to start with better health, start with your sleep, and everything else will start to fall into place. So here we got another one. Somebody has some coping tools that they try when the urge hits them. Some I shared in my presentation. Um, Incredibly hard to pause and ask why I have the urge and work through via journaling or talking it out. Um, So work through via journaling, talking it out, and then do something more productive, something I won't regret doing. Um, well, I'm curious. So, are you doing the journaling now? And I mean, you could, I mean, something more productive. I mean, it depends on what your definition of productive is. Um, when you get that urge, is it like, is going for a walk and focus on your physical health? Is that considered productive? Is there a stack of laundry that needs folded that you can like, okay, I have the urge, I'm gonna go fold towels and then come back and see how I feel. I have clients that do that. They do household chores that when they realize that they're super stressed and they're in the pantry, they like will go clean something. They have a cleaning checklist and that they hang on their refrigerator. So this I love. I actually am going to start doing this for myself with the summertime and being home more with the kids. But they have a cleaning checklist of all the things that don't typically get cleaned. And when they open the fridge and they realize they're in there because they're anxious or they're just bored, they'll close the fridge door and the checklist is there and they'll pick one of the chores and they'll go do that thing and then they'll come back and then maybe they're actually hungry and they want to eat. So if there's things that need to get done and you're thinking, how can I use my time more productively rather than eating or just journaling about my emotions, make a list of the things you want to get done and hang it right there on the refrigerator. um, it is hard to interrupt the urge. That's why it's so important to find that trigger. Like for me, it was a long time before I realized, like, why is it every time I sit on this couch, I want chocolate? Like, you just have to be very aware. And so it's raising that awareness to what the trigger is. And then, like, once you figure out what that trigger is, it's easier to find that pause. So just, ask yourself, even if you take the time and log throughout the day, that could be another thing. You could do it reflectively, log your food throughout the day and the time you ate it, and you might notice, every day at this time, I'm reaching for this. What happens around that time every day that makes me have that urge? So it doesn't even have to be necessarily maybe in the moment, but if you have time that at the end of the day, you can go back and you can see those patterns and reflect on what you're doing, then you can put a plan into place. Anyone else, any questions, anything you want to share? I know we're slightly over time. But this is good. I'm so glad you guys are sharing because you're not alone in this. It's hard, and I'm happy to work with you and talk to anybody that's still struggling. Yes. All right. Thank you all very much. I'll let you guys go throughout your day. Feel free to connect with me, shoot me a message, and I will see you hopefully in 2 weeks for the next one.